Hey everyone, welcome to Cognigy.AI Tech Update webinar for the third quarter of 2023. I'm new product marketing manager at Cognigy, and I'm super excited to have you on here today. If you are into the AI world as much as we are, you know how fast this space has been moving. So today we've got our product experts on deck to show you the latest and greatest from Cognigy.AI. Before we dive in, a couple of housekeeping notes that I would like to go through. You are in listen-only mode for this webinar, but we'd love to hear from you. So please drop your questions or feedback in the Q&A session. If we can't get to you today, don't worry, we will follow up via email within the next couple of days. We will also send you a recording of this webinar, and you will find it in our product blog and help center. All right, let's kick things off. So over the last 8 releases, we have rolled out a total of 88 platform updates, including 19 awesome new features and almost 70 other large and small improvements. The focus of our product development lay in Cognigy virtual agents as well as Agent Assist and Live Agent. So these will also be our main topics for today's tech update. First up, we are walking through some major updates in generative AI that you can't miss. Then we will explore how you can create seamless multimodal experiences with Cognigy xApps. And for this, get ready for a special hands-on builder experience session. Finally, we will dive into how you can set up a dynamic Agent Assist Workspace and take a look behind the scenes at the latest Live Agent enhancements. Now, the first big news in generative AI that we would like to show you is our new LM resource, which enables what we call multimodal LM orchestration. There have been a lot of advancements in the generative AI space within a very short time frame, and you probably have seen new models and vendors constantly emerging in the market. So our goal here at Cognigy is really to give you the greatest flexibility when it comes to LM deployment, so you can decide on a granular level which model you want to leverage for which use case, depending on factors like cost, latency, output quality, and more. Also, you can easily migrate to new models in the future to future-proof your deployment. As you can see here, we've got native integrations already with 9 different models from OpenAI, Azure OpenAI, Google AI, and Anthropic. Once you have connected to a model, you can immediately test the connection inside the LM resource and select it for your target use case. So for example, here I would like to select Anthropic Clouder for their LM prompt node. And so in their LM resource, and I will then use the prompt node to detect the user intent and analyze their sentiment. So I already got the flow pre-configured here, and I will just go and test it out in the interaction panel. And you can see that the bot successfully detected that the user intent is reporting product defects, which is a leaking blender, and the user sentiment is negative. Now, the second big update for generative AI that I want to mention is LM-generated adaptive cards. As you know, adaptive cards offer a very robust way to create interactive and dynamic content. You can show various output types and even embed actionable content like buttons and forms or rich media content like images and videos. But they need to be authored in JSON, which can be challenging for non-technical users to get started. So with this new feature, all you have to do is enter a brief description of the adaptive card, and Cognigy.AI is going to automatically render the output for you. So here I want to create one adaptive card for selecting a date and time. And even better, I can optimize the adaptive card with subsequent prompts. So for example, here I want to also add a title and emoji. Now I will just go and test it out in the interaction panel by selecting the date and time and see whether this input is going to be captured inside Cognigy.AI. And you see that, yes, everything works beautifully and the reservation is confirmed. So this feature really makes creating an adaptive card much more accessible and time efficient for everyone. Now, last but not least, we've got Knowledge AI, which I dare to say is the most exciting generative AI addition to our platform this year. So, in a nutshell, Knowledge AI lets you upload enterprise content like documents and instantly launch a virtual agent that can search through the uploaded content and dynamically deliver the exact answer to any customer query on autopilot. Now, I won't go too deep into Knowledge AI as we already had a deep dive launch webinar just 2 weeks ago. So if you haven't got the chance to watch it yet, don't forget to scan the QR code, save the link, and check it out later. All right, so that was a quick roundup of generative AI updates. Now I'm happy to hand it over to Thomas, who is going to give you an update on Cognigy xApps.
Hello, my name is Thomas and I'm the lead product manager at Cognigy. And I'm very happy to talk about Cognigy.AI today. I know that we discussed xApps in our last tech update session already. There we focused on the architectural side of things and how it works behind the scenes. But today we really want to be hands-on and even build a first Cognigy.AI together. But before we do that, let us quickly recap what Cognigy.AI are, and I can also share our motivation why we have built xApps in the first place. So let us imagine that we want to build an AI agent, and let us assume that that we have decided that this AI agent should operate on the voice channel, because this might be the channel our customers are on. This decision might be the right one, but this channel might not be the ideal channel to cover every single use case we want to implement, because channels have their limitations. And this could be, for example, in a voice scenario, that like spelling a 16-digit credit card number via voice is cumbersome and not really a great user experience. Some things you cannot even do via the phone channel. So, for example, sharing a photo via phone is obviously not possible for obvious reasons. So we actually built xApps to really close these experience gaps of existing voice and also messaging channels to really enable fully connected customer engagements. So what are Cognigy xApps in the end? In the end, Cognigy xApps are mobile-first micro-web applications running inside your browser. And the fact that these are just micro-web applications implies that you can implement anything you can implement with a website, also with a Cognigy xApp, making them infinitely flexible. So how can you actually leverage xApps in a customer experience scenario? You can use xApps complementary to any primary channel. So let us assume the primary channel is the phone channel. You can then have an xApp as a second screen to cover service cases you want to cover. And the beauty of it is that this xApp has the full conversation context available. So you can use anything you have within your flow within the xApp, and also the other way around. We will get the submit payload, so the data the customer submits via the xApp within the flow again, so that it can be used within the main conversation within the primary channel. So before we now build a little xApp together, let us first quickly look into some further use cases. So what you could theoretically implement with xApps. I will not go through the whole list, but yeah, this should just serve as a source for inspiration for you. What I want to stress is that a lot of customers have explicitly mentioned the authentication use case, because this is something you cannot really cover well with quite some primary channels. So for example, the voice channel, because obviously spelling an email address, a user ID, and maybe even a password is really cumbersome via the phone. And via an xApp, you can simplify that. So users can either then just specify email address and user ID within a little xApp, or an xApp could even leverage the device biometrics to accelerate the whole authentication process. And this is maybe also something to stress. the ability of xApps to access the device functionality is a huge benefit of xApps compared to some primary channels. So, for example, sharing the device location is obviously also something you cannot do via phone, but something you can do really great with xApps. So, for example, in roadside assistance use cases. All right, let us now finally get to the hands-on part of our xApps demo. So what I will do now is that I will first quickly show you which xApp we want to build. We'll show you an end-to-end demo of our xApp, then explain you how it works, and afterwards my colleague Derek will show you in a step-by-step tutorial how to build xApp by yourself.
Hi, thanks for calling the Tech Update. How can I help you?
I want to make a payment.
To make a payment, first you need to verify your identity. Click on the link I sent you to log in now. The authentication was successful. Now, I'll take your credit card information. Please enter your details. Thanks for your response, Thomas Sammer. Your payment has been posted.
Brilliant, thank you. All right, let us now look behind the scenes and really understand what was going on. So, first of all, the end user reached out to the bot via phone. So the primary channel in our case was the phone channel. And the bot then detected the user intent to make a payment. Based on this intent, then SMS text message was sent out to the end user with a link to an xApp the end user then opened within his browser. And within this xApp, the end user then collected or provided the username and the password. And on submit, and this is really interesting, the bot on the main channel then received this information, thanked the user for authenticating, and then asked the end user to complete a payment via the xApp. And the xApp session, and it's interesting, the xApp session was still alive and was updated with a new screen, allowing the end user to then make a payment. And on submit, this information was then again available in the primary conversation so that the bot could then thank the end user for his payment. So I think, or I hope that we've now understood what is going on. And in the next step, Derek, my colleague, will now show you how you can actually build exactly this xApp in just 10 minutes. So Derek, you want to take over?
All right, well, thank you, Thomas. That was a great demonstration of what xApps could look like in real life. And now I want to rewind from the beginning and try to build this up step by step so everyone can understand how you would actually build this using Cognigy. What I'm going to do is I'll start with a flow that's already been mostly pre-built, but I've disabled all of the nodes that I want to explain. The flow allows someone to just ask to make a payment and it detects their intent and not much more. So I can say hi. It'll say, hi, thanks for calling the tech update. How can I help you? And I'll say, I want to make a payment. And it's going to say to make a payment, first you need to verify your identity. And that's all it does right now, just does the basic intent detection and a little feedback to let you know that it's heard what you're saying. So how do we xAppify this? So I'm going to enable some of these nodes step by step and explain to you what they do. So you'll see that in the on first time branch, I have this node called xApp init session. Now, this sounds a little bit technical, but I think more technical than it actually is, because really all it's doing is it's saying, hey, I'm going to have an xApp experience associated with this flow. And I want to be able to fine tune some of the visual elements of that. So you may have remembered in Thomas' demo, there was a splash screen essentially when you first open the xApp that has a blue background and a logo in the middle. Well, if you want to change those colors or change the logo, make it look how you want to look, you can just use these style customizations to be able to do that. And you have a lot of different components that you can change the lookup, kind of like how you customize the web chat for the web chat endpoint. So that's all the xApp init session node does, and you need to have it there to make sure that the xApp is going to work with your flow. Now, the next thing is the send SMS node. I won't enable this now because I won't do the SMS sending, but the key thing I wanted to highlight here is in the message body, I have something that says to follow along, click here. We've predefined a set of xApp tokens, so you don't have to remember the path and the JSON object to the variables that you want. We can just use this xApp session URL, and it's going to get the xApp session URL for this session and put it in the text message. Okay, so we've initialized the session, and now if I say hi, and I need to make payment, now we see kind of an expanded version of this confirmation message. It says to make a payment, first you need to verify your identity. Click on the link I sent you to log in now. I have this link statically here just to make it easier to show you in the demo. But on the phone, you would actually receive this as a text message, just like Thomas showed. If I click on this now, it's going to open a new tab for me, and it will just show me that blue landing screen and say there's nothing to do here right now. Okay, so we got the basics. So hopefully this makes sense so far. I'll show you my say node just so it'll be clear what I did. Is in the AI channel, I just added a hyperlink I could click on just to make the demo easier, but I'm using that same xApp session URL token. Okay, so we've got this part going. Now we want to actually present a UI to someone, something besides that just blank xApp landing screen. So I'm going to enable this xApp show HTML node. And what this does is it allows me to push HTML into the xApp. And I just grabbed some sample code of a login form that I'll render. I've chose full HTML document. You can also just choose the body only of the HTML document. But the critical part of this is this line right here, line 22, where we embed the SDK for xApps. You need this for your HTML to work within the xApps framework. The other thing that's critical to see is how we can use the SDK to submit values back into the flow. So we have this line here that's just sdk.submit, and it passes in the form values into the flow. That sends a message back into Cognigy so the conversation can continue. Okay, so we've pushed this into the xApp, and now we want the user to respond. But we need to wait for them to respond. And to do that, we need a question node. So just like you might have a question node to ask someone a question and wait for a certain response type, like a yes/no question or a date question, with xApps, essentially the xApp is the question. And then the question node is just a way to say, hey, we're going to sit here and wait until someone does something with the xApp. So in my question node here, the question type I've selected is an xApp question type. And really, that's all I need to do right now, saying sit here and wait until someone does something with the xApp. All right, progress. Now, once someone does something with the xApp, we're going to give them a confirmation message, and I'll just enable this here. This is just a static message that says, great, I'll take your credit card information now. Okay, so let's see what's happened. So I'll say hi. And I'll say I need to make a payment. Okay. And it's presenting me with this URL just like we saw before. I'm going to open this up. It's going to show me the splash screen, and now it's going to show me an actual login form. So if there's on my mobile device, I'd see a well-formatted version of this. Since it's on the desktop, I'm seeing the full thing. And I'll just say test and test. I click login. Now we go back to this holding screen. And you'll see back in my flow, I've received an input. So I got an answer to the question. And now I've gone to the next signal that says, now I'll take your credit card information. Before I proceed, there's one subtlety here that's very useful to remember, is we've introduced a node called mute speech input. And the idea behind it is this. When you're presenting someone with an xApp form in the context of a voice call, there might be background noises, there might be other sounds. Someone might make a noise where they're trying to look up their credit card information, and we don't want to treat those as inputs into the flow. So we can temporarily mute the speech, so we're not getting any of those voice inputs while we're waiting for that xApp input. So it's a good thing to put in your flow to test out to make sure that you're creating the user experience that you want. Now that the user has logged in, we want to now give them a credit card payment example. So I'm going to enable this. Again, this is the same thing. This is just some sample code to be able to show a payment form. And actually, let me replace this with something else. There we go. Again, in the same one, I have embedded the xApp SDK. And I can just save this. I'm going to ask my question again. This is, again, just an empty question node with a xApp question type. And finally, once someone answers the question, I'm going to give a thank you message. It's just a simple example. In reality, we'd want to take that payload we get from the HTML form and do some validation of it, or run it through a payment processor. There's lots that we might want to be able to do with it, but this at least shows you the sequencing of the UI. So I'm going to go ahead and say, hi, I'm going to say I need to make a payment. I'm going to get my xApp link. Yeah, I'll go ahead and click on it. So first thing I want to do is I want to log in. Okay. Now I'm presented with the credit card form, but in the flow, and output to the user will hear, now I'll take your credit card information, please enter your details. So back in the xApp, I can put my name. This just lets me create a random credit card number. Just enter some numbers here, click submit. Okay, now we've submitted this. And again, back in the flow, it says, thanks for your response. Your payment has been posted. If there's something complex about orienting yourself to xApps in your own thinking, it is the fact that you're providing two simultaneous user experiences on two different channels managed in a single flow. But what remains true is your say nodes are going to output things to the user just like you've already done. And all you're doing is layering in some of these xApp show HTML nodes to be able to update that xApp experience while the user is still on the phone with the automated agent. So that's xApps. Check out the documentation and you can try it out yourself. We think this is going to be a great new way to create really helpful user experiences to help your customers. All right. So with that, I am now going to hand it over to Dilek, who's going to talk to us about Agent Assist and other topics as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Hi, everyone. In case you have not seen me before, you must go and watch the last tech update. There we have actually introduced quite a lot of powerful voice gateway features. I'm Dilek. I'm the product manager for Voice Gateway, Live Agent, Agent Assist, and our contact center integrations. And today's topic for me will be Agent Assist. I will give you a little introduction of what it is, what you can use it for, and then we will have a quick look behind the scenes. Let's start with what Agent Assist actually is. What we want to achieve with our Agent Assist is to give the human agent superpowers through our AI agent workforce. And this will lead to a better customer experience and also to a much better and easier agent experience. How we're going to achieve this is basically to have all the necessary resources at one place, just within one single agent workspace, instead of having this in multiple tabs. And this will definitely lead to a better agent productivity and also to a better and faster average handling time. Let me actually go into my Genesis and give you guys a short demo first. And then we can go into how you can actually set this up. So for this, let me quickly call my voice bot and let's see what happens.
Hi there. Welcome to our Agent Assist demo, where our AI workforce gives your human agent superpowers. Even in a phone call, let's now connect to a human agent.
Hello, this is a customer speaking. What is Cognigy? So this is an example of a simple Agent Assist workspace. I have just hung up the call. And let me quickly guide you through what we can actually see here. This is our Agent Assist workspace embedded into Genesis. And the way our Agent Assist workspace is actually configured is pretty easy. We have a basic grid layout. So that means we have, I think here we have 10 rows and 5 columns going down. And you can basically decide in which place of this grid you want to set which specific widgets. This is just an example. So the complete grid is completely customizable. But just to give you an overview of what you could achieve with this, I wanted to add in quite a few features so you can see what you could do with our Agent Assist. And what you can see in here is basically on the top, we have a little sentiment analysis to see how the sentiment of the customer is. We have next best action. This is basically a suggested reply for the agent to make sure that he can get the answer a little bit quicker. We have a little bit of a timeline where the agent can see, okay, what happened? Is there an intent that has been found, or has a goal been triggered, and when the handover started? In case the use case of an agent is going through a specific process, you could even add a few steps in here, which the agent could then confirm and click, as our workspace is completely responsive. Of course, we have added a user profile to make sure that the agent knows who he's talking to. And as we have just released our Knowledge AI, you can also embed that into your Agent Assist workspace to use it. Now, I would say let's quickly jump into the different steps which we need to take to make sure that we can set this up. So there are a few things that we need to consider. The first step is actually to set up our grid layout. For this, you can go to your endpoint, make sure you have your handover configured. So without the handover provider, you will not be able to configure any of the Agent Assist stuff. There is one thing that you can already configure, and that is the Agent Assist config. This is basically where you configure the Agent Assist grid. Currently, this is only available via API call, but we have already provided the link for you. So once you get in there, in case you have not used it before, you first need to add your API token. You can find this on your profile within Cognigy.AI. Then you scroll down until you get to Agent Assist configs. With Get, you can of course see what you've already created on your project. You can post, so basically you can create your new grid configs. You can get the grid config of a specific config with the config ID, delete a config, or you can also update it with the patch. To actually create like your first config is pretty easy. The way that we have created this is basically you need to define how many columns you want to have and how many rows you want to have. The gap is basically for the styling to ensure that there is a little bit of gap between the widgets to make it look a little bit easier, better, prettier. That's kind of more on the design styling side. Then when it comes to the tiles, our widgets within Cognigy.AI are called tiles. In there, you need to add a tile ID. This needs to be unique because whatever this tile ID is, you will need to add this to the flow nodes within your Cognigy.AI flow to make sure that the updates can be sent to the Agent Assist grid. So if it's not matching, then this will not update anything within the grid. But I will show you this in detail later on again. The way you configure the placement of your widgets is also actually pretty simple. You just need to say where should it start, in which column and in which row, and how much should the height be and how much should the width be. And for that, you basically just add how many columns should it be and how many rows should it have. At the end, you need to add your project ID so we can make sure that we can map the Agent Assist config to the right project. This is a setting that you would then need to choose in here, and this is actually mandatory. This is kind of like a fallback in case something is not configured within your flow, which I will show you in a second after telling you guys quickly what the Agent Assist flow is. Because to finish up our setup in here, you will also need to select your Agent Assist flow. This is basically the flow where all of the customer inputs will go through and trigger the specific nodes to make sure that we can update the Agent Assist workspace. Then I would say, let's get into a flow. So what happened here until this point before we arrive in here is that we had the bot talking, then we did a handover to the human agent, either within Genesis or any other contact center that we support natively, or of course our own live agent. And in here, you can see the set agent assist grid. This node basically gives you a preview of an agent assist grid. There is a little difference between, sorry, there is a little difference between the agent assist config that you have created. That is the default, but in case you add the set agent assist grid node, you can override the default to make sure that in case you trigger a specific intent, you can then have different grid layouts for those intents. So you can also change your grid layout while you're already using Agent Assist. Here we have an example. This is actually exactly the example which I have showed you in the demo before. And what we have here is that we have 5 columns, 10 rows. We have a gap of 10 to make sure that the widgets are separated enough. Then we have created our different tiles. We have an event tile. This was the history that you saw, where we say it will start in the first column, but in the second row, it has 3 rows and it goes over 2 columns. Then we basically create this for every single node or for every single widget that we want to add in our workspace. And then we already have like the basic configuration. The next step in here is actually to make sure that we have the nodes to basically fill the widgets with content. For this, it's really important to use our tile nodes. So in case you type in tile, you will see we have a set iframe tile, set HTML tile, and set adaptive card tile. Let me quickly open one of them. In here, you have the tile ID. This is exactly the ID that I was talking about when we were talking about the grid. Because however you're calling the tiles within your grid, this is also the same label that you need to give the nodes to make sure that we can map the right widget to the right place within your grid. And once that node is then triggered, it will send the updates to the workspace so the agent can see the new update. What is important to mention is that in case you use say nodes, question nodes, or something like that, it is not visible in your workspace. So you need to use the Agent Assist tile nodes, or else you will not be able to see it. Before we go more into detail regarding the nodes, of course, what I hope is clear is that you can use every single feature of Cognigy.AI within your Agent Assist Workspace. Since our Agent Assist Workspace is basically configured through a flow, this also enables you to make sure that you can use every feature. And as an example, what I have added, once we get into this flow for Agent Assist, you can see that on top here, I have the sentiment. In here, I basically want to display the customer sentiment. For this, I am just executing another flow. And what I'm doing here is that I have an LLM prompt. For this use case, at least I'm using an LLM prompt where I just ask to return the sentiment of the customer input in just one word, which is either positive, neutral, or negative. Then what I do is that I store the result in the input. We add a key to the result. Then when you add your sentiment node, which in this case is an HTML tile, since in my use case, I did all of the styling through the HTML, you can use every single thing that is saved within Cognigy. So the only thing that I add in here is input.sentiment. And once I trigger that node, I will receive the result from the LLM prompt node and display it within our workspace. Then let's get back to the flow. It wouldn't be me if I would not spoil a few things from our upcoming releases in a tech update webinar. Therefore, let's spoil a little bit. Of course, what you can see is that our Agent Assist Workspace currently is totally customizable. It's really up to you guys how you configure your grid. It's also up to you how you configure your widgets themselves. Of course, it is sometimes a bit more difficult to make sure that you have the right styling, or it takes a bit more of a time to add the right HTML to make sure it looks great. Therefore, what we will be releasing with one of the next releases, like 460, 461, we will release plug-and-play widgets. They will have like a basic styling, so you will not need to add the HTML in here. They will have a basic styling, and within that, you can then choose, as an example for the Identity Assist, do you guys want to have the Identity Assist as a horizontal widget or a vertical one? Should the customer image, the profile image, be round or square? Do you actually think like, do you want to use sentiment analysis or not? And you can basically just turn that on and off to basically make sure that you guys have less manual effort and it's easier for you to build an Agent Assist Workspace. So since we have went through the first step, which is the Agent Assist Grid, then we had the flow nodes in here. The last step that we actually would need to do is, there are actually a few things. So of course, we need to make sure that we have set the right things in here. This works for every digital, so chat-based handover provider that we support natively in our platform. Then we have the second option, which was the first thing that I've showed you, and this is our voice use case. In the last tech webinar, we have actually showed you a few new things that we've introduced to our voice gateway. And these were basically features that were prepared for our live agent, agent assist solution, or human agent assist solution. And the flow to actually make this transfer is pretty easy. You basically would have your normal bot flow. And then at one point, we have our transfer. For the transfer, we use the dial option. This basically ensures that the bot still stays within the session. The bot doesn't talk, it only listens and transcribes the customer. And for that, you can actually decide. If you open the node, you will see that you can change your speech vendor. In case you do not fill this out, it will basically stick to the default one. But in case you have specific use cases, you can also switch your vendor. Of course, you need to make sure that you have added your speech provider credentials in our voice gateway portal. Then you could change the language depending on if you have customers from different countries. You could switch the language depending on intent or depending on a recognition. Then you have the transcription webhook. This is the endpoint where you will be sending the transcription to. This endpoint will basically receive the transcription and make sure that it triggers the right agent assist flow, so it can send all of the tile updates to the agent assist front end. Then the next step that you will need to take is to decide which audio stream would you actually like to listen to and transcribe. You have three options. The first one is that you basically listen to the customer and transcribe, or you transcribe only the agent's responses, or you can listen and transcribe to both audio streams to make sure that you can, firstly, of course, use Agent Assist for the customer input to make sure you have the best suggested replies, or you can see the customer data. And the second use case for this would be in case you're also transcribing the agent input, you could use this as kind of like a coaching to tell the agent, hey, be a little bit nicer. Hey, you're not using the right words, to basically train him or coach him a little bit or guide him through the customer experience. Then let me actually show you one more thing before we switch a little bit more to live agent. And this is how it will work. Because if we, of course, what I have just showed you in Genesis, you can see that we have made sure that we actually support the new features or the new products that we release, of course, also with our contact center integrations. But since we have our own live agent, of course, I will show you guys this as well. So I have just quickly moved my chat window so I can quickly trigger a handover. And then I will show you what will be happening within Live Agent. So what happened here is I quickly triggered my bot. My bot asked how he can help me. And I just said I need help so I can get forwarded to human agent. And then the agent will say, hi, this is a human agent. And I will show you in a second why there is something like, are you still there? Okay, once the agent actually interacted with the customer and the customer replies, the agent will be able to see the Agent Assist Workspace. And in here, he can now, this is basically the same workspace that I've also showed you with voice. So you can use the workspace for voice and also for chat. Really, it depends on your use cases that you have. And whatever the agent will be typing now, of course, the customer will be typing now, we'll get through our Agent Assist flow and will trigger the updates within our Agent Assist Workspace. So if we would ask, does Cognigy have voice gateway? It would then go through the flow, and the next best action, it would say, yes, Cognigy offers voice gateway, and the agent could basically copy paste that, and the customer could receive it. So this is kind of it for the Agent Assist part. There is actually one thing that I want to show you guys, and that's basically this message. It basically asks the customer, as you can see, it's sent by not by a human agent, but by an AI agent. And the AI agent was basically asking if the customer is still here. This happened because I did not reply within, I think, 2 minutes. 1 minute. I will check the configuration now. And this is actually a new feature that we have added for our live agent, which I will show you quickly. And this is where you can see it. So what we have added, let's start with the handover to agent node. What we have added are event settings. And in here, you can say you want to send the active event back to the flow. So we will know that, okay, the handover is currently active. And then you can say the same thing for the queue event. So in case a conversation is in the queue, instead of being active directly, we will receive the event that the customer is in the queue. What this is used for is you could add a lookup node where you can then select the handover status. There are multiple different handover statuses like active, queue, completed, cancelled. And as an example, let's talk about the use case first before I show you what we can actually do here. In a lot of cases, which I actually know from myself, what can happen is that once you have the handover to a human agent, you just do not have time anymore. You forgot that you're actually chatting to him because you were doing something else. You see that the queue is taking quite a long time. And you basically just do not want to wait that long. So you just leave your laptop open and just do something else, but you're actually not active anymore when it comes to that conversation. This can, of course, be a little bit troublesome for the human agent because they will wait until you reply, or you basically block a slot in their availability. And to make sure that we do not have this blocker for the agent, we have released a new feature, which is the handover inactivity detection. And what we can do here is we basically add a timer. The timer could be, it really depends what you want to configure. You could say it could be 2 minutes. Once it is set to 2 minutes and the handover to agent node is being triggered, we receive the event that the handover is now active. That's when the timer actually starts counting down. What we do then is you could ask a question. You can ask, are you still there? And in case the customer is not replying anymore, you could then say, okay, then we cancel the handover and you actually will be transferred back to the bot. So the live agent or the human agent will have a free spot again. Then I think I have one last update for today. And that is actually also something regarding live agent. Since we have quite a few routing capabilities now, we have actually added one more routing capability, and that is basically intelligent routing. And with intelligent routing, what we can do is we can do the routing regarding or considering skills, languages, and also priority. Within Live Agent, you set up your skills, and then you assign the skills to the agents. And then once you want to do the handover, depending on the language that has been recognized or the intents that have been recognized, you can then select the skills that you need for your handover. You can choose the language in case the customer is speaking a specific language. It can also be that you have configured your flow in a way that once specific intents have been triggered, that the customer gets to an escalation path, and you will need to set the priority of the conversation to, let's say, urgent. Whatever you set in here, we will check during the handover and make sure that we assign this conversation to the most fitting agent. And in case the priority is urgent, this will definitely be prioritized higher than the usual chats, and the human agent will actually get this into his queue earlier than all the other chats. Also, we have a visual aspect here. In case a conversation is set to urgent, high, medium, or low, you will also see this within the chat or within the Live Agent window. And that is something that I can actually quickly show you guys. In here, we have the priority. You can also set this manually. Once you're talking to a customer, you could also set this manually. But once you do the handover and you have this field set, then it is being automatically set for you. And once we say this is urgent, you will see in here that we have quite a few exclamation points to make sure that it's visible for the agent, for the supervisor, and also this being considered while we are doing the routing. And yeah, I think that's actually it from my side for today. Then I will hand you guys back over to New because she still has a few features that she would like to share with you guys.
Thank you, Dilek. Before we wrap up today's webinar, I would like to bring to your attention two final product improvements that might seem to be small features, but can really make a big difference to your conversation design process. The first one is the text cleaner function for data preprocessing, especially in voice scenarios when users need to spell out a name or provide a number input. They talk to the bot like they are talking to a human agent. So, for example, instead of saying 3455666, they would say something like 3455666. And this can make it challenging for the STT software to transcribe the user utterances in a way that conversational systems like Cognigy.AI can easily detect user entity. So the solution for this is what we have introduced as the clean text node that lets you pre-process user inputs to ensure they are accurately formatted and interpreted within Cognigy.AI. As you can see here, we have 9 different text cleaner functions for the different pre-processing capabilities. And we also already have a video explaining this feature in detail. So if you haven't seen it yet, don't forget to scan the QR code, save the link and check it out later. The second feature I would like to mention is the pattern-based question output types. Similar to the text cleaner, this feature also aims at scenarios like voice scenarios where it can be difficult to capture critical user inputs precisely. So essentially, these question types are out-of-the-box solutions designed to facilitate entity mapping of specific output types, including license plate number, IBAN, bank identifier code, social security number, IP address, phone number, and credit card number in a variety of customer service scenarios. So that was a wrap for today's tech update. If you want to stay in the loop of the latest product updates, don't forget to check out our product blog. It highlights the most important improvements that come with every new releases in a very easy to digest format. And the links are already readily available directly inside your Cognigy.AI environment. Now, I would like to say a huge thank you to all of you for joining us today. I hope you find this session helpful, and a special shout out to our speakers for the amazing demos that they have prepared. I can't wait to see you on at the next tech update. Thank you and have a great day.